Hey, work from homers, Adam Schroeder here. We love bringing you this podcast, and thousands of you have proven that it's been helpful for you. But since time and online storage space aren't free, Naresh and I wanted to come to you personally to ask for your financial support through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/workfromhomeshow and help support the show. And we appreciate your support at any amount you choose. That's patreon.com/workfromhomeshow. Thanks for your support. Let's get to the show.
Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schroeder. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. Thanks so much for listening to our show and growing it from our favorite 18 listeners to now more than 18,000 listeners. Today on our show, we have Joey Klein. He's the international corporate transformation expert. He is an internationally known personal transformation consultant, world champion martial artist, multiple business CEO. He travels the world teaching his technique of conscious transformation, which we're going to talk about on this episode, to support people in living healthy, happy, and more fulfilling lives. He's a #1 bestselling author of The Inner Matrix, A Guide to Transforming Your Life and Awakening Your Spirit. Joey, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Thanks for having me, Naresh.
Let's first start the discussion by talking about what you're most known for, and that is your technique of conscious transformation. Now, this supposedly helps people live healthy, happy, and more fulfilling lives. And I think our listeners who are working from home could use these tips for self-improvement. Tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely most known for the area of internal development, which tends to define the results that we get on every level, whether it's business, career, personal goals, etc. And there's a lot of places today where we can go to really hone in on our hard skills, such as learning how to sell or, business strategies or things of this nature. There aren't a lot of places where we can go to develop high levels of, we'll say, emotional capacity or mental thought strategy techniques, things of that nature. And so I really focus on how do we play the inner game to really have that translate to the outer results that we want, regardless of what area of life that is. And so people tend to find me for one of two things. They're either, looking to play the game at a higher level, like a top level executive or something like this, where they're doing really well, way above average, and they're just looking at how do I bridge the gap to that next level, or like a pro athlete. The other place that I tend to dig in with people is when they have a really big life challenge they didn't expect, and it kind of knocks them, off their center, so to speak. And we look at how do we not only get you back on center, but how do we leverage this as an opportunity to create something really extraordinary.
Now, when you're talking about working with people who've been knocked off track, I think, a lot of our listeners are either kind of upper management people or business owners. And this past pandemic has, definitely knocked a lot of them off track. What are some of the key things you've seen people really what's the first building block of working through that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what I find is most imperative for all of us to do when the unexpected happens, right? Like the pandemic. I have a seminar-based business primarily, so all of our programs were in person in hotels. So when March came around of just this last year, technically I no longer had a business. I had to completely reinvent the way we did everything, right? And in those moments, we all want to go to overwhelm or panic or uncertainty. And it is really easy to focus on, the negative things that are happening and the things that are going away, and get lost in that. And so what we must do is take a moment, let ourselves panic. Like give yourself 2 to 5 minutes to throw a big fit or whatever, and feel the fear, right? That's naturally going to come up. But then the key two things to do is remember where you were going all along. What is the outcome that I was striving to fulfill, or what was the vision I was looking to produce before the unexpected happened, and get realigned with I'm still playing that game. I'm still moving in that direction. This is just change. This is just something that occurred. And now my job is to relate to the change that's occurring and ask myself, where is the opportunity that is presented by way of this change that's happening? And how can I continue moving toward the mark that has always been my goal? What happens when we have extreme change happen is we don't realize it, but our focus shifts, right? Our focus shifts from what we're creating or what we're looking to produce or the result that we're looking to get. And all of a sudden we get hyper-focused on the things that we're losing or the negative things that may occur or the negative things that are happening. And it's easy to get lost in that. And if we get stuck there, we're never going to be able to access creative thinking and critical thinking to find the creative solution to produce the outcome that we're after in the first place.
You also, like I mentioned, #1 bestselling author of The Inner Matrix, a guide to transforming your life and awakening your spirit. What is the inner matrix?
So I think of the inner matrix as I spoke of before, about all these internal realities that ultimately translate to outer results. And so if we look at how does every choice in our life get made, it actually starts at an emotional level, right? We have a feeling. So that's the first component of our inner matrix. Then that emotion drives our thinking. It directs the mind. So if we're angry, we're going to think a certain way. If we're feeling accepting or inspired, we're going to think in a very different way. So emotion drives the mind. So the second component of our inner matrix are our thoughts, the thoughts that are occurring in the mind. And then that has a tangible impact on our body, on our nervous system. If we look at fear-based states such as anger, anxiety, depression, sadness, etc., the brain functions in a particular way. It shuts down. We go into fight or flight. The sympathetic nervous system lights up, and we literally lose access to creative thinking and critical thinking. When we're in a love-based state, love, joy, peace, acceptance, inspiration, etc., our parasympathetic nervous system tends to be more active. Our prefrontal cortex of the brain lights up, and we have access to critical thinking, creative thinking, etc. And so the third component of our inner matrix is really the nervous system of the body. And is that working for us or is it working against us? And so when we look at when we make just an everyday choice or decision, am I going to have salad? Am I going to eat salmon? Am I going to hire this person or am I not going to hire this person? There's an emotion that occurs that drives the thinking in our mind. We feel it. There's an experience in our nervous system. Our physicality, our biology is functioning a certain way. And then after all of these sort of micro instances occur, we then make a choice, a decision, we take action. And so the inner matrix is all of those components that occur before action and results happen.
You have, as part of the conscious transformation, you have kind of the power series where you talk about the power of focus, emotion, vision, and intuition. Can you kind of talk to us about why you picked those 4 things to focus on, and maybe a tip or two for each of them?
Oh, absolutely. So our Power Series is the foundational curriculum or training program that we get people inside of. And literally each of those are training a different component or aspect of our inner matrix. So I look at inner training similar to how most people think of going to the gym or nutrition, right? People go to the gym to get in great shape so that they have access to a certain quality of life. We don't go to the gym for 3 weeks and then decide we're in shape and quit, right? We're consistently working toward those outcomes. And so the Power Series is really just sort of like the gym for our inner reality. So Power of Focus, we focus on the component of the mind. Most of us are unaware of the somewhat 60,000 thoughts that we're having every day. But those thoughts that we have occur in the mind that reoccur and reoccur do translate to the choices, decisions, and actions that we take. So when we look at training the mind, we really break it down into a few key steps, which we can apply on a regular basis. It's really as simple as just sort of taking note, maybe every few hours throughout the day, and just stopping and going, in this moment, what is the mind thinking? And we might notice, oh, it's in a theme of criticism. It's in a theme of positivity. It's focusing obsessively on this negative thing that happened recently, or it's focused on the good things that are to come. And so literally we just want to create the awareness of what is the mind thinking by way of just asking the question, where is the mind focused? What is the mind thinking in this moment? Then step 2, assess, like, is this thinking going to produce the result that I want? Or is it going to create momentum in a different direction? And then third, if we're not aligned with the thoughts that are ultimately driving us toward what we want to create, we need to reshift that. We need to refocus that. And I know many of us have heard things like what I just shared before, and it seems very basic and simple, but I find that oftentimes we underestimate the power in being a bit more mindful and directing and paying attention to where we're focused. Unfortunately, biologically speaking, we are predisposed from a neurological perspective to assess threats. And so our mind is more likely to focus on the negative, to assess the threat and avoid it, than it is to focus on positive things in our life or things we want to create and how we're going to create them. So we need to train the mind to do this on our behalf and be diligent in terms of making sure we don't get caught in some of those negative thinking realities. So, power of focus, we can start by training the mind by simply, hey, what am I thinking? Is this thinking going to produce the result? If it is, great, keep doing it. If it's not, redirect the focus. From there, we go into power of emotion, where we start training our emotional capacity. Many people are aware of the term emotional intelligence today, but few people, I find, are aware of how to actually train or develop emotional capacity. And so this other aspect of our inner matrix is the emotions that we feel. I find that when I work with a lot of individuals who have a strong intellect, they think that they're rational beings, right? They're rational people and they're not so emotional by nature, but that's a falsehood, right? We all are driven by the emotions that we feel, whether we're male, whether we're female, doesn't matter. Whether we're more analytical, whether we're a little bit more sensitive, emotion is still at the core. And so similar to training the mind, we can train emotions in a similar way, which is start to pay attention to how we feel. Hey, in this moment, what am I feeling? And if we don't know what to call it, like we don't know to say anxiety or we don't know to say joy, it can just simply be, oh, I'm a bit contracted or in a fear-based state. My brain's not working for me right now. Or I'm in an expanded, I'm in a more of a love-based state, right? My brain is working on my behalf. And whether we're in that more expanded state, we're thinking clearly, or we're in more of a fight or flight state, we're in that more fear-based state, the key is to note it, just acknowledge it, start to create awareness of it. And then step 2 is to breathe. Breathing is the best way to shift and change our emotional state because of the way it interacts with our nervous system and the brain. And so if we touch the tongue to the roof palate of our mouth after we notice how we're feeling, and we just take that nice, deep, full breath in through the nose and then out through the nose and repeat that cycle. And when I say deep breath, it's not a fast, aggressive breath. It's a slow, gentle inhale, maybe 5, 6, or 10 seconds in, whatever's comfortable for the person. And then a 5, 6, or 10-second exhale, and you just breathe in that, calm, expanded way until you feel the nervous system of the body relax and you feel the emotions calm down. Then we go back to sort of power of focus, which is great, focusing on the outcome I want to get and asking the question, how can I move toward that outcome now? What can I do to move toward the outcome that I choose to fulfill? But the key to beginning training emotion is really noting it's there, breathing and centering. And we'll find that breath will intensify love-based emotions such as peace, joy, inspiration, and it'll calm down fear-based emotions such as anger, overwhelm, or anxiety. So the breath technique and naming where we are is effective regardless of where we are on the spectrum. From there, we go into power of vision, which is all about context. If we don't name the specific outcome or result or mark that we want to get, then we focus somewhere. We don't have a way of assessing, is what I'm doing right now moving me toward what I want or not? And so now all decisions in life become emotional rather than strategic, rather than based on a specific goal or outcome that we want to achieve. And so when we narrow down and we really name what we want to create, whether that's an experience we want to feel, an outcome we'd like to achieve in our career, a goal we aspire to in our relationships, like it doesn't matter, but naming what we want to create and being clear about it and revisiting it consistently is key. And so creating vision can be as simple as just naming something you know you want to create and acknowledging it every day. Just put energy toward it. Power of intuition is where we, bring these three components together: vision, mind, and emotion, and lining those up in such a way that we access critical thinking and creative thinking on a consistent basis, so that the supercomputer of our brain is working on our behalf on how can we bridge the result from where we are to this vision that I would like to fulfill. And beginning to access intuition and starting to train intuition is really as simple as aligning ourselves in the right state, right? Making sure we're in that love-based state, so we have access to critical thinking and creative thinking. And then second, asking the right questions. So we want to ask questions on a regular basis and teach the mind to think in a way that it's presupposing the outcome that we want to create, such as, what can I do right now to fulfill X vision? What can I do to accelerate my progress toward what I want to create? And when we ask questions from a love-based state, meaning we're feeling joy, we're feeling inspired, we're feeling calm, and we're asking ourselves questions consistently about what we can do to move toward vision that sort of assumes it's going to happen, the mind starts coming up with ideas and it starts to highlight information from our environment that'll be constructive to producing the outcome. And so that's a quick soundbite on each of those programs that we kind of get into. But when we look at the Power Series program, we've got hours and hours of content inside of really digging into and mastering each of those aspects of our inner matrix: mind, emotion, nervous system, intuition.
Yeah, it's, as I've gotten older, I've realized more and more the power of our mind is beyond what you think of whenever you're a kid. And, it's been very, very eye-opening for me over the years. Tell me a little bit. You were a 3-time world champion in martial arts. Tell me a little bit about what martial art you did, why you decided to try to become a world champion, and how that impacted your business career.
Yeah, sure thing. I've studied more the traditional martial arts for a little more than 20 years now. So I started off with like Okinawan Kempo, got my black belt. I did a lot of the Kung Fu arts: Wing Chun, Qigong, Hung Gar. Where the art that I competed in was a traditional art called Harong Do. It's a Korean martial art. And when I started training in it, I really got back into it just to get back in shape, and wanted to get back to a level of feeling good physically, because I focused a lot on my business and other things, and I kind of let my body fall by the wayside a little bit. So I really was just intending to get back in shape. My martial arts master, I really enjoyed training with him, and he was one of the best in the world. And so I really wanted to train privately with him and see, where could I go? Because I was in my mid-20s at the time. And I really wanted to see, like, what am I capable of doing here with martial arts? Like, what level can I get to? And I actually didn't want to compete. I never wanted to be a world champion. I never sort of set that goal for myself. He actually set it on my behalf, and he said, if I train you privately, you have to compete, and you have to win. And I was like, well, if that's the way that I gain access to you, then I guess I'll do it. And if you believe I'm capable of that, I'll give it my best, right? And traditional closed door practice, nobody's there. It's just you and him, or it was actually 2 or 3 of us and just him. And he would literally, old school, like, lock the door, and it was just us 3 with him in training sessions. And we would train every day. And there were times like I literally thought I was going to die. I'm like, there is no way I'm going to survive this today. And so ultimately I did, win 3 world championships in a row. And I decided not to continue with martial arts, and I decided to put my focus on my business because I really had the passion of transformation, and I felt I could serve people in a much greater capacity in that regard. But the thing that I use still today, and I don't think I would be where I am today. Matter of fact, I know I wouldn't be where I am today if it wouldn't have been for more so than like learning to punch and kick and fight, which I learned in martial arts and got decent at it, was emotional management. Because there's no more intense situation that you're going to be in than if you're in a ring with somebody else whom is trained, and their objective is basically to hurt you, right? And your objective is to hurt them, and there's nowhere to go. It's just you and your opponent. And I remember times when I'd be getting choked out and I couldn't breathe and I thought I might pass out. And I had to relax. I had to breathe. I had to use the techniques that I literally just spoke about just earlier to calm my emotions down so I could stop and think and look, what is my way out of this? Or where is the opening? How can I be effective here? And so I think that what made me a decent martial artist, more so than my athletic ability, was my ability that I learned in terms of managing emotions, because that's really what gave me the edge. And I find that it's still what gives me the edge today is just that emotional training that I got inside of by way of not just the training, but also compete.
Joey Klein, #1 best-selling author of The Inner Matrix, A Guide to Transforming Your Life and Awakening Your Spirit. Highly, highly recommend it to all of our listeners. The websites are joeyklein.com. That's Joey Klein.com, Klein, as well as the innermatrix.com and conscioustransformation.com. Joey, any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners or anything else you want to promote?
No, that was great. I really appreciate your guys' time and being able to talk a little bit about the importance of internal training. And the final note I would leave is don't underestimate the training your internal self or internal capacities and its importance on getting results, whether it's with myself or somebody else. If you're not quite getting the mark in life that you want to get, you might start looking at how do I train my emotions and my mind to bridge that gap.
Joey Klein, thanks so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. To all our listeners, check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. That's www.workfromhomeshow.com. Email us hello@workfromhomeshow.com if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and leave us a review on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and any other podcasting platforms that are available out there. We are everywhere. Leave us that review, take a screenshot, send it to us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com, and we'll send you something good and free back to you. And until next time, keep on working from home.